and we are speaking to Tracy Contizano. And your job title is ICU nurse, or
I'm an ICU ER nurse.
ICU ER nurse. Now, when we first spoke to you, you were at Bellvue Hospital in New York City, and caught yourself in the middle of the COVID explosion there at the worst it's ever seen. We know what a dreadful experience that was, but you haven't stopped yet. And remarkably, as you just self-described, you're somewhat of a COVID chaser, taking on these, battles in various cities. Can you tell me about your experience and where you were mentally after coming back to San Diego?
I feel I had suffered a lot of PTSD. I felt like I needed counseling after that. I unfortunately did not get the counseling I needed at that time. And I still feel a lot of us nurses need that. I dealt with a lot of death and a lot more than I had in my whole 25-year career. And it came at such a fast capacity, more than I ever experienced or thought I would experience. A lot of people describe me as a tough cookie, and a lot of people think I have a very hard exterior normally. And now I just crumble even at commercials. I mean, I cry at the drop of a hat, which is not like me at all. I think this has really taken a toll on me mentally for sure. Not to mention the exhaustion that I'm feeling. I think that has a lot to do with it as well. However, when I came back, I felt like, well, I'm in my home environment. I'm in my home hospital. I know all my friends there, and I think that I will recover just fine. However, I just didn't feel like I was the same person. I think that the first experience in New York changed me dramatically, and I could not readjust. It took a lot. I just would find myself breaking down and crying and reliving it over and over again. A lot of night terrors and a lot of problems when I came back. So I could not readjust to my job that I loved for 17 years. So I ended up quitting UCSD and trying to find a bigger purpose in life. And that's how I decided to get on this rampage of just trying to chase COVID and trying to find a bigger cause.
In many ways, I think, there's that fight or flight kind of mentality. And it just reminds me of your description that you are not fleeing, you're jumping right into the middle of it, kind of battling, your emotional struggles here.
I came up with my own saying of slaying the COVID beast. I feel that this is a COVID beast. It's bigger than we ever imagined. I feel that we're not on top of this by any means, even with the COVID vaccination, which I got. I don't feel that, I feel this is still the beginning. So I feel that any way that I can participate, any way that I can try to help people, I'm trying to be a part of it.
So you decided to look for, more of taking on, your battle with COVID and helping other patients. And so how did you end up in Texas?
Well, at first, I think I wanted to face my fears. COVID is very fearful. If you think us nurses aren't afraid of it, we are very much afraid of it. At first, we're very much, people looked at us and were like, oh, essential workers. They treated us very nice. I mean, they were going out of their way. Now it's just a title. They call us essential workers, but I don't think we're glorified like we were before. However, we are risking our lives. We are definitely putting our lives at risk every single time we walk into one of these rooms. And don't think it doesn't cross our mind, our families, our loved ones, every single time we walk through those doors of someone that's sick. Because we don't know what we're battling. We don't have the proper weapons, I like to say, to battle this beast. But we do the best that we can because we know that they have loved ones at home that are counting on us to do this job. But we try our best, and sometimes we do fail, and most times we fail. But we do want to give it 100% of our effort of what we've learned And what we've went into this job to do is to save lives. And we do save some. And that's the job that we set ourselves up to do. But it is facing our fears, because I'm telling you that we could just say we're going to retire, some of us, and some of us could run the other way and get jobs that don't involve COVID. However, a lot of us are stepping up and saying, no, we are going to face this beast, and we are going to try to our best to save as many lives as we can, even if society is not going to be on our side and wear masks and make sure that they wash their hands and do social distancing. We are facing that as well. So it is disheartening that we are the ones that are going to have to deal with the repercussions of having to risk our lives for this.
You've seen the worst of the hospital situation in Bellevue, but can you describe how things were when you arrived in Laredo?
Unfortunately, same situations, a little bit worse comorbidities. However, it still was affecting all age ranges. A lot of people have it in their minds that it only affects the elderly, which is very incorrect. It affects all ages. And that's the saddening part. It doesn't matter how old you are. No one is disposable. No matter how old you are, you still have a life to live. So I feel seeing it, we still saw just as many deaths, and we still could not help these people, regardless of what we did. And that was the saddest part. I mean, you see all these great things on the news about how these great technologies are supposed to help and these great medicines. However, it wasn't helping these people. And we still were seeing so many deaths. And that was the sad part, is it was rising, not falling. And that was the sad part. And as the bars were opening and people were going out there and they were unmasking to have their alcohol, and obviously at that point, your inhibitions fall, and then the numbers were rising. So unfortunately, it's sad to see all these people not taking the precautions. And we had ICUs that were full every day. That's why we had a need. I mean, I'm from San Diego and I'm in Texas. At that point, California numbers were not rising. So we were seeing the same exact thing that we were seeing in New York. And that was the unfortunate part.
You described the ICU in New York as every, few minutes that alarm was going off that somebody was, fighting for their life. Was it the same kind of situation in Laredo?
I would say not every few minutes. However, I would say daily we had someone die, or, maybe a couple days would go by, but you would see them slowly dying. And to die of shortness of breath, I mean, if you go through the ABCs, airway and breathing are definitely top two. And to slowly see someone suffering of not being able to breathe, it's a very sad situation. And that's what they were dying from. And then slowly organ failure. So, I mean, it's really sad to see someone, and we are their family. Their families can't visit them. So it takes a toll on you. You not only are their nurse, but you're their family. And just to see what they go through and what the families go through, we're exhausted. And when we say we're exhausted, it's to a point where it's not just a word, it's a feeling, it's emotion, it's everything. Like, we are trying our best just to keep all of us, each other, standing, because we're so tired. The 12-hour shifts we walk out of there and we can barely keep standing because we're so exhausted from everything. We are social workers, we are family members, we are caregivers, we have so many roles, we wear so many hats, and people just aren't understanding how exhausted we really are.
With your experience in New York and what you went through coming to a smaller community like Laredo, were you able to bring some of the experience and things that you've learned to help that staff?
I feel that the staff was very knowledgeable before I got there. So I did try to help them, but most of the travelers had already been through their assignment too. And most of the travelers are what we call, quote unquote, COVID chasers like me. A lot of them had been in New York, and a lot of them had experienced the same thing I had experienced. And on this assignment as well, when we talk to them, they as well have been traveling just like me. So I have found that most of the nurses I have traveled and met have done the same thing I have done, and they are becoming obsessed with just chasing this virus and trying to find some kind of solution and trying to help people. And it feels like you have this need to help and this need to do something more and more and more. It's getting out of control now. We just want to help more and more people. It takes over your being. Like, this is why we became nurses. And don't get me wrong, we're still scared. Don't get me wrong that we're still missing our families. I'm so homesick, I can't stand it. I've been away from home for 5 months. I mean, it's months, and I'm beyond exhausted. I'm beyond homesick, but this need and this fulfillment and this love for other people and trying to help them. This is why we got into nursing. I've been a nurse for 25 years, and this is why I became a nurse.
Describe and explain that to me a little bit, because I didn't understand that you're a COVID chaser, but there's other nurses as well that are, kind of self-described COVID chasers. Explain what's going on there. There's other nurses that are moving to different hospitals as well?
Oh, yes. This is my 3rd assignment, and there's people that have been on their 4th assignment. I mean, so you'll do an assignment, and once the numbers start dropping and there's not so many COVID patients, which there are waves, but if the wave drops, then at that point, you just jump onto another assignment that the numbers are higher. So you're taking a risk. It's a huge risk because obviously these patients are very, very sick. And if you're jumping on another assignment that the numbers are high, these patients are very sick. We are taking assignments in the ICU that we have 3 patients, and they're very sick patients normally. So you feel a little overwhelmed at times, but you do your job and you do the best that you can, and you try to take very good care of these patients. But like I said, there comes a point where you have to take a break, and we do. We take a break, we try to go home, relax a little bit, and then you're back onto your next assignment, because it feels like it can never be done because the numbers are growing. They're not getting smaller, they're growing, which means that the patients' population is getting more. That means these waves are not stopping. Over the holidays, because of Thanksgiving, because people went to see their families, the numbers went up. And Christmas, we are just waiting and bracing for the numbers to again continue to rise.
Airports were as busy as ever. So then from Laredo, the numbers started to drop, and you took another assignment in Irving. Is that what happened?
That is correct. The numbers started to drop.
Laredo?
I'm sorry?
What's the hospital name in Laredo?
Yes.
Which one?
Yes, it was Laredo.
Oh, that's Laredo what they call it, Laredo Hospital?
Laredo Medical Center.
Laredo Medical Center. Okay, so then the numbers started dropping, and you took on yet another assignment.
Correct. I contemplated going home because I am so homesick, and it took me, I would say, a good 5 hours for me to decide, no, I'm not done. And then I decided to get another assignment in Irving, Texas.
And what hospital is that?
Baylor Scott and White.
Tell me about your experience now in Irving. How bad is the situation there?
It's dire. We are always full. There's ICU patients that are being held into the ER because we don't have enough beds. The numbers are, again, they're full. We are full all the time. And this is just the first wave of Thanksgiving. We haven't even hit Christmas yet. Those people have not been infected yet, or they have, and they haven't gotten bad enough yet to come in. So we anticipate it's going to be just as bad as Thanksgiving, if not worse.
And are you working with other nurses, like self-described COVID chasers as well there, who've come from other communities? Do you know them, and are you becoming familiar with them?
Oh, absolutely. We also get floated to other floors, and then I meet them as well. And I talk to them about their experiences and where they've been and the different assignments they've had as well. And absolutely. And we're proud. We're proud that we are doing what we're doing. We're very proud to be part of this community. we're very proud to be representing Texas and being here with them and helping them. And we do get, I unfortunately have to get rides back and forth to work. And every time I do, they do say, thank you from Texas, you know, and that's very nice of them to do. So they're very happy that we're here and helping them. And they've been nothing but appreciative and loving to us with open arms, and very happy that we're here to help them.
You know, describe your situation now. I mean, you've been living in hotels, working in the most horrible, you know, in conditions with people dying around you for the last, you know, several months. How are you holding up mentally?
I'm tired. It's very difficult. I mean, I miss my friends. I miss my family. It's very difficult. You take a lot of people for granted, I think, until you don't have them in your life anymore. I come back to a hotel that's empty. The holidays have been very difficult. I mean, I had absolutely no one here to be here to wish me a Merry Christmas or Happy Thanksgiving. I had no nice fixings on the table that I'm so used to having. I mean, it's very difficult to see, you know, the Christmas shows on the television, and to know that I've been away from my family for 5 months, and it's going to be 6, very closely here. And I know I'm doing good for the community. I know I'm doing good for the state of Texas, and I did great for New York, but it feels like we're getting nowhere. That's the sad part, is sometimes you work so hard and it just feels like you're just making no groundway, like you're just in the same place where you started in April. I mean, it feels like I'm getting absolutely nowhere. And it feels like no matter how much I try to educate the public or I reach out to the public, and they just aren't getting it. And when I talk to nurses and I ask them, like, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone, they would say, wear a mask. And I'm like, it's the same exact thing over and over again. And it's just sad that a simple thing could help us. A simple thing as wearing a mask could help us. And I feel sad for everybody. I just feel sad for the public. I feel sad that we're going through this, that we have such senseless deaths. And I'm trying not to feel selfish that I'm so sad and homesick.
You described a little bit of after coming back from New York, sensing you may have PTSD, and you know, it'd be hard to imagine that you don't. But going out to do this again, is that something that you and the other COVID chaser nurses are, you know, sharing your experience or sharing your emotions, trying to cope with this? Are you describing any of those feelings to help each other out?
I think for us to continue doing what we're doing, we'll briefly talk about something to kind of debrief, but we can't get too far into it because we have another patient to take care of, or we have to continue. That patient passes away and we have another patient coming in. That's how quickly that we have to fill that bed, and we have to get on with our day. And I think although it's good because we have to continue, it's also bad because I think all those feelings kind of get shoved up inside. And I think that eventually we all will have to somehow release them. And I think we all will need counseling after all of this. A lot of people say it is a war zone. It definitely is a war zone. I think we see things that we are undescribable, and things we were definitely not prepared for and still are not prepared for. We've tried a lot of things. We failed at a lot of things. We feel like we just, I think as nurses, we've always been able to heal. We've always been able to help people. And I think at this point when we can't, we just feel like we're just, running in circles, and we're not doing what we've always been taught to do. And I think it's just heartening for a lot of people. And with the PTSD, it is very real. it's very disheartening. And when you get into these situations where, and for us as travelers, it's very hard too, because we don't know the people that we're working with. We don't know the environment. So we have a lot more on us than a lot of people do, because we are thrown into many different environments, many different equipments. We have to get to know the people. We've got to get to know the doctors. We've got to get to know all of their rituals and routines. So we have a lot more on us than a lot of people do. But we just try to keep a smile on our face, try to help each other out, and try to do the best that we can.
And, you know, I always remember thinking when I hear war veterans, especially during war, that why would they sign up for 2 or 3 duties to see in some of the worst combat ever? And can you explain to our viewers who may be asking when they hear your story, why are you doing this?
I think you just, in your heart, feel that you have to help. You can't sit back on the recliner and do your 2 to 3 shifts. I work 6 days a week and I work 12-hour shifts. And every day people ask me, why do you do that? Like, are you glutton for punishment? And it's like, no, when you help someone, it makes you feel good. It just, in your heart, you know, you have to help. You have a skill that is needed. And you can't sit back and watch people die. You have to help. You have to get out there. And if you ask a soldier the same question, he'll tell you, you have to go and help. You cannot sit back and watch somebody die. You have to help. And I have that skill set. I was trained to do this, and I can go out and I can help. It was funny because I actually transitioned to the ER nurse role, and I had been doing it for 17 years and I absolutely love it. And I said, I'll never go back to ICU again. I swore I would never go back to ICU again. But then I sat back, and when COVID hit, I was like, wow, I have this skill set and I can do this and I can help as many people as I can. And in my heart, I knew this was something I had to do. In my heart, I knew I needed to help people and that I can save some lives. And that's what I know I needed to do. And that's what I did. And I have no question in my mind that I made the right decision. And if I had to do it all over again, 1,000,000%, I would do it again. And if I can save just one life, then I did the right thing.
Well, I know, you know, here in San Diego, just at Scripps, we heard that they lost 30 patients last weekend alone. So things are worsening here in California and San Diego. You know, is there a chance you may end up back here in the thick of things here at the worst time, you know, we're seeing here?
Well, I am planning to come back on January 29th. Very happily coming back January 29th, but I think I need a little break. Not a long one, but a little break, just for my emotional state. So that I can see my family, and just so I don't have a breakdown. But I definitely need to take a little bit of a break. But then, yes, 100% all hands on board. I will definitely help out, because this is what I need to do. You
mentioned, you know, kind of being in search of a deeper meaning here. Has there been time to find that deeper meaning so far, or is that something that you're still in search of?
I think I have, you know, I feel obviously there's so much more to do with COVID, but I feel fulfillment. I feel like this is what I need to do. I need to help people, and I need to be in the thick of it. And like I said, I do have my fears, but I always put those in the back of my mind and think there is a bigger cause out there. There's people that need me, and that's where I need to be. But it does feel fulfilling. Every person that I touch, every person that I can hold their hand, every person that I can cry with or smile with, or I can bring joy to their life, or if I can save even one life, then I have fulfillment. That's where I need to be.
Can you, you know, describe, I think, help our viewers understand the roller coaster it must be to go through that feeling of losing patients, and then, you know, the gratification of seeing somebody walk out who was in the ICU?
I think you never get used to losing a patient. That's the hardest feeling in the world. You get very attached. With COVID, the hardest part is that they look like they're improving and everything looks great, and then they don't. And I think seeing the empty bed of someone that you took care of for so long is the hardest thing in the world, because you know that person was there and you know you took care of them for weeks and weeks. You know their family over the phone. You love them like their own family. It's very difficult. And then on the flip side, when you see someone go home, it's just the most amazing feeling ever. And it makes everything that's bad with COVID great. Like, to say goodbye, take care, good luck to you, you know, you made it through, and we clap and cheer, and our hearts are so fulfilled. And I cry when they pass away, but I really cry when they go home, because I am just so happy with joy that they made it out. And although they may not understand that they actually made it through the Grim Reaper's hands, they actually did, because COVID is so scary. Like, we are juggling so much, and they got out. I mean, it's amazing. It's just an amazing feeling, but we cry with both.
Well, you know, working a 12-hour shift and 6 days a week, I think on New Year's Eve, I'll be thinking of you
I'll
and
be
all the
working.
work you do. And I hope that many of our viewers will, after hearing your story tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this, and I know it's not easy, but it's so important for especially our viewers to really get a feel for some of the experience that you're involved in the work you're doing, because I think a lot of times they don't understand. People just don't understand.
Yeah.
All right, Tracy, thank you so much.